Welcoming you to Emversity, the Prognosis. This is a podcast where we talk to top healthcare CEOs, top healthcare executives, and top healthcare founders. What keeps you motivated for driving all these changes day in, day out?
I don't know what motivates me, but I'm motivated by myself. Motivation comes from, and I link it to the word passion.
What are the development opportunities that healthcare professionals can seek when they come and join CARE?
I think CARE is a very, very fast growing organization. Typically what we look at is, does this person have the energy to deliver something beyond themselves? And that's the differentiating factor. Today when I look at it, hospital or the healthcare industry, 50% is non-doctors. What are these people doing? These are marketing folks, these are technology folks, supply chain folks, these are material management folks, these are human resources folks. And these are the jobs that are available across the spectrum.
How critical do you think allied healthcare is to the entire model hospital ecosystem?
There'll be about 10 to 20% of the workforce that will be allied healthcare professionals. Whether you're a lab technician, the way the labs are is going to change every 5 to 10 years. The regions you use, technology that you use is going to be changing. So that's a perishable skill because whatever you learn today is going to be perished.
How critical it is for players like Emversity, like us, to also come across to bridge this skill gap and for hospitals to be kind of bigger part of this skilling infrastructure?
Between the formalized education that we have and the formalized industry, there is this piece, bridging the skill gap between formal education, because formal education is geared to a standard. What you're trying to do is customize that education to suit the workforce needs of various institutions like ours. So I think for us, it's going to be a very, very important element to say, how do we partner with institutions like Emversity? How do we have the right talent that's already available? And this talent is then moldable to suit the industry. Today, every large private equity in the world is interested in healthcare because they see this opportunity. And you are so lucky to be at a time where this opportunity is going to strike and you'll be ready for the workforce.
First of all, Dr. Amit, welcome. Welcome to Emversity. This is our Hyderabad campus. First of all, welcome. Welcoming you to Emversity, the Prognosis. This is a podcast where we talk to top healthcare CEOs, top healthcare executives, and top healthcare founders. So thank you, first of all, taking time out for all of us. You see some students also sitting here. They also had some questions to ask. But first thing, thanks for taking time out and coming on this weekend.
Thank you, Akash. Let me also say the first thing, thank you. Pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me, and thank you for choosing me to be here. I know there are dime a dozen healthcare professionals that are available, but thank you for thinking of me. I think the work that Emversity and all of you are doing is very credible, and I'm very happy to support that in every way. And this is just a small contribution to be here and to be able to talk to our students, to all of you. And I don't look at you as students, actually. You're all future leaders. I don't know which one of you tomorrow, 10 years, will be sitting here and sharing your wisdom 20 years down the line with our community. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Akash.
Sir, I think while this will go on YouTube, this will go to a lot of listeners. I would first of all like you to just walk us through your professional journey, right? What led you to kind of taking up this role of CHRO of CARE Hospital? Also, if you can just give us some significant milestones of your career, that will be really helpful for all listeners and all students to kind of set context first.
Sure. So I think, as you asked me the question, my eyes rolled to 20 years. So I've been 20 years working here, and just about 5 months ago, I joined CARE Hospitals as the Chief of Human Resources. And I think it's a very important role. And before I talk about my role, I need to tell you the ambition of CARE Hospitals. So CARE is now a part of the Quality Care India Limited, and it's backed now by marquee investors, Blackstone and TPG. And you all know that Blackstone and TPG are one of the world's largest private equity, investors in the world. And when they back, chains like ours, right, clearly shows that we're in the journey to become one of the largest healthcare providers in the country. Today, as we speak, Quality Care India is about 4,500 beds, close to 20 hospitals that we have across. Put together the Quality Care India Limited assets, we'll have about 15,000 people working for us, right? However, the ambition is what got me here. The ambition is clearly to become India's largest healthcare provider with about 50 to 75,000 people working for us, clearly 10 to 15,000 beds, right? You're all healthcare professionals, so you understand beds in a hospital. That's how it's counted, right? So with that kind of poised, if you were to become one of India's largest, what does it take? And hence my role becomes very, very crucial. While, we can proudly say that we are backed by the best private equity, which means, they're, willing to invest resources in the plan that we have. Capabilities is going to be a key differentiator, and I'm here to build those capabilities and qualities, and how do we scale the business. So I joined here exactly for this reason, the excitement, the journey. India is a thriving market right now. Prior to this, 8 years I spent with another very legendary healthcare company called Aster DM Healthcare. And I think I was right at the cusp where, Aster went through lots of changes. Aster DM got listed, in the 8 years I was there. Then again, they split the GCC and India business last year. And from a very, very humble beginning, Aster DM Healthcare, when I left them, we were about 35,000 people in across 9 or 10 countries, right? So that's a massive growth, and that was what I did. A lot of my healthcare learning happened there. I'm very grateful to the organization for giving me an opportunity to really learn healthcare. A lot of my work happened there. We really catapulted, building new hospitals, acquiring new assets, right? And as a head of HR, I was responsible for practically everything to build human and people capabilities. So that was where my healthcare started. Qualifications have limited, role for you to become a leader. So after my dental surgery, I didn't know what to do. I was just in your seat. I was thinking of what to do. I had some plans, but clearly this is not what I thought of. Post that, what I just decided is I saw an ad, and I joined a firm called Career Edge, and that was a small consulting firm. But it's not about being small or big. It's just about investing yourself. And truly, I'm very proud, because the 2.5 years that I worked there, or 2 years that I worked there, that was my first job. It was a very, very small place. We were hardly 15 to 20 employees in the organization. But my learning was tremendous, because I did anything and everything, right? From sales, marketing, to advisory, to whatever you say, I did that. And post that, I did my MBA. So Akash, when I went to my MBA, I was sort of excited because I had already worked, I had some experience, and then I was thinking, oh, this is how it really applies.
Yes.
So I was able to apply a lot, and I think that was very, very important part. And then I worked with, a manufacturing industry, large manufacturing company at that time used to manufacture CDs, which is no more, called Mosabear. And then another company called Pearson hired me to lead talent management for them. And that's how it is. And then Aster happened, and then I'm here with CARE. So that's the long journey short. It's been very, very interesting, but it's not been linear, so to say. It's not really been, one step at a time. It's really been zigzag, and I'm happy to talk more about it as we progress through the session.
Yeah, I think great set of experience. I think Moserware is one company we used to relate when we were kids. I think these new age kids won't even know about this, but great set of experiences. I think the cross industry experience, right, always gets the most out of you and helps you be prepared for anything that is coming across, right?
True.
But I think the way you talk about Aster, the way you talk about CARE, I think there's a lot of passion there. So my next question is, what motivates you in this role, right? And secondly, what keeps you inspired for driving changes, right? In this industry, in the Indian healthcare space right now, a lot of changes are happening, and we're seeing it change very rapidly.
Sure.
What keeps you motivated for driving all these changes day in, day out?
Sure. No, I think it's a great question, right? And I think I don't know what motivates me per se, but I'm motivated by myself, right? To sort of give it my 100%. And motivation, like any other piece, is a skill, right? Many of us are not motivated to do whatever we do, right? And many of us are hyper motivated to do what we do. Now, motivation comes from, and I link it to the word passion, right? Passion is giving your best in everything we do. Today I'm sitting here, and if I'm dispassionate and I'm talking to you, you're not really listening to me. But my energy reflects on you when I talk with passion, or when I work with passion. So for me, passion is a very important word, and it's like any other skill, you cultivate it. Now, how does passion really happen? Most of us in everyday lives, we do things, right? But we don't do it with a heart, right? And I'll give you an example. For example, when you were sitting, you're students, right? You're sitting here, but your heart is somewhere else, and I don't know where that is. right? And this is a habit, right? Then suddenly you get distracted, and thankfully Akash has said, let's switch off our phones so you don't have phones. But slowly you look into your phone, and then you look into something else. When you're home, again you're distracted, you're thinking of getting out. So today the world is full of distractions, right? And one way one can really look at, curbing distractions is by focusing whatever you do in the present. And I try and do that, Akash.
Yeah.
Is passion comes from whatever you do, but focus in the present. When you're eating food, enjoy the food, right? Because then you're really enjoying. So then it becomes a very, very self-producing habit, because then you're passionate about everything that you do. That if you're here, you're passionate about here. Then you go home, you're passionate about home. Most people are always thinking of something else. In the class, they're thinking about going home. When they're home, they're thinking about how to meet their friends. When they're with their friends, they're distracted and doing something else. So what you're learning is the ability to be distracted and of being non-passionate, right?
Yeah.
So for me, this word has been very, very crucial. So how I've lived my entire career is, whatever is given to me, right? I want to do it to the best possible way and find meaning and purpose. Every job is important. Every role is important. When I see young talent really telling me, this is not good, I want to do this, I want to do that. I said, work is a very important sense of contribution. I feel sad that when a carpenter doesn't take his work seriously, right? When a plumber doesn't take his work seriously. And the same thing, you feel so enterprising when you get a great carpenter and he's doing it with so much passion. Even to your house, when he's fixing it, he says, don't worry, I'll do it. You remember him for years. And I think all our professions, whether you're a rocket scientist or you're a carpenter, right? If you have the passion and the energy and the excitement to do whatever you can, right? I think that is a very important differentiator.
It's a very important, but I think all of us today are guilty of multitasking quite a lot, right?
Yes.
Right. While we are watching a TV, we are still on mobile and we are texting 10 other friends, right? I think it's a very important lesson, that being present and do what you're doing in present, be very invested in it and do it well. I think very, very important point. So coming to important next question in this healthcare industry, you are with CARE, right? Today, if I have to ask about your organization, right, because a lot of these students and other people who will be listening to this podcast will go on to become healthcare professionals, right? So what differentiates today your organization in terms of as a top healthcare job provider, right? And what are the development opportunities that healthcare professionals can seek when they come and join CARE? Because today, all the professionals that are coming in, right, they look for not just a place to work, but also a place where they can develop into next level of leadership, right, as we discussed. So what does CARE Hospitals today present in that space?
Yeah, so I think a great question, Akash. And I think CARE is a very, very fast growing organization, right? You've seen CARE, particularly in Hyderabad, and all of you from Hyderabad, because we've got 7 assets in Hyderabad ourselves. 2 of these are flagship hospitals. I'm sure all of you have crossed through the CARE Banjara hospital that we have. We're incredibly proud of that. And that's really been a legacy hospital. It's always ranked among the top 10 in the region, top 5 in the city, right? And the second is the CARE High Tech City. Not to say we also have a large, and one of the oldest CARE hospitals at CARE Nampalli. And then we've got a CARE in Malakpet, and we've got the 5th CARE in Mushirabad. And CARE High Tech and CARE Banjara also have 2 different buildings of their own. So these are, various assets that we have, right? Typically, we hire about 1,000 or 1,500 people each year. And as a part of the quality care, we hire more than 2,000 young people each year. These could be nurses, this could be paramedics, these could be, operations. What we look at, and typically what we look at is does this person have the energy to deliver something beyond themselves? And that's the differentiating factor. When I see great chief nursing officers, right, there's just one factor that really differentiates them. It's the energy that they bring, because when you have energy, you are willing to learn, right? The problem with many of us is that we lose energy halfway, we lose steam halfway. Even when we are doing this program, we are debating whether we should have done something else, because my cousin did something else and got a better job, right? I can tell you that every opportunity today can take you wherever it wants. Today, the world is so flat and so, accelerated that these opportunities are to be capitalized. And it's your next step that's going to be more important, and the next step that's going to be more important, not what you've already left behind. The problem with young talent is many of them speak to me and I consciously engage with them and they say, I should have done that. I wish I'd done that.
Yeah.
I always say, what can you do next is more important than what you didn't do.
Yeah.
Right? So if you focus your energies around doing next, is going to be very important. So to your question, what are we going to be hiring? We hire about 1,500, 2,000 people as a part of the quality care every year, right? So lots and lots of growth. In addition to that, we've got lots of, brownfield and greenfield opportunities. What do I mean by brownfield and greenfield? New assets, new hospitals coming up, right? New streams coming up, right? Here's your opportunity to be a quick learner and understand what they need and start really, showcasing yourself. Even when you join care, you don't have to be defined by saying, I'm an MLT, I'm an OT. These are just jargons that an industry education will give you. You've got to cross border to say, you know what, I'm here to do whatever best is possible. And there are so many people to guide you, right? Rather than being stuck in defining a boundary for yourself. One of the things I did, Akash, was I never defined a boundary to myself. I didn't even know. When I started my career, I didn't know what HR does. And today, I'm, the Chief Human Resources Officer. And even in that role, I don't define that, my job is as a Chief Human Resource Officer. I just say, I'm here to take healthcare to the next level, to take care to the next level. And whatever it takes, my job, I should be able to do that. So that's how I've looked at it. And I'm still learning every day, trying to do my best, trying to, give whatever it takes to build a successful organization.
No, it's great. All the greenfield, brownfield, all the projects that you're coming up with, I think that provides a lot of opportunities for upcoming healthcare professionals to kind of get. Today we hear a lot when we kind of go out in the market. I meet a lot of young people saying that I graduated, but there's no job for me, right? And as you told, India is right now the job market is very flat. What you study doesn't really define you. It can be 10 other things, right? But healthcare as a employment provider has become a big industry. I think with you people adding up more and more, I think that's very good. Okay, so coming to the elephant in the room, right? I think a lot of these students know about it and we also talk about it. I think today we hear a lot of stories that young nurses not being able to input cannula. A lot of people, a lot of young professionals are not having basic computer skills, right, which are needed. Basic communication skills that are missing in this industry, right? Why do you think that is happening? And do you really feel the same in your experiences?
Now, we do see there is a clear mismatch. So, Akash, if I, go back one step behind to your question. So, I don't know if all of you understand that, about 60% of India is employed, right? And 40% is not employed.
Yeah.
So, of the 1.4 billion population that we have, we've employed about, 50 to 60%. So, I'd say roughly about 700 million, people are employed. Of that, healthcare clearly takes about 10 million. Yeah, and that's a large industry.
Yeah.
The growth in healthcare is about easily, double-digit growth. We're expecting, 10%, growth, and this is one of the fast-growing industries that you have. Right? With that kind of a growth, people like yourselves who have interest in healthcare, right, will definitely find lots of opportunities to grow. But clearly, there is a skill mismatch, right? And what's the skill mismatch? The skill mismatch is not that the industry needs skill, why, and we have skill. I consider the skill match is mainly because, there is a limited aspiration that one has towards healthcare. Healthcare as an industry is typically seen as, an industry for doctors or nurses. And I must open up to say, while the industry, the core is, doctors and nurses, there are various other allied professions and everyone's got a space, anyone. So today when I look at it, only 50% of the hospital or the healthcare industry is actually made of doctors and nurses. 50% is non-doctors. What are these people doing? These are marketing folks. These are technology folks. These are, supply chain folks. These are material management folks. These are human resources folks, right? And these are the jobs that are available across the spectrum, right? Now, any industry, when it starts growing, it will attract people from outside. Interestingly, all of you who are actually doing a healthcare course have the first biggest advantage is to be a part of the pie. So if you don't occupy the pie, somebody else will come and occupy the pie. And you are best poised because you understand healthcare. So these are the very fundamental years for you to really get into the nuggets of understanding healthcare and then keep learning across. So the main skill set shortage that we have, or the gaps that we have, right, is largely because of people's mindsets not willing to, sort of cross-learn, etc. And one very good example I'll give you. You're our paramedics and technicians that, are truly enabling it. In your mind, right, how many of you aspire to be a technology person? You say, oh no, tech is not for me because I didn't take maths. Somehow, some of these linkages, right, draw fear and draw. I think if you keep an open mind, right, at 18 to say, what's the big deal? Do you know the younger you are, the more open and faster you are to be able to learn a skill, right? You all know that. A child learns much more easier than an adult. You are adolescents that are getting into the workforce even before, if you have mindsets about learning, right? That's going to kill you all throughout life. So my first lesson around working around the skill gap is, even before you come, you should be in this opinion that there's nothing I can't learn. I mean, it's just simple, right? Just because you have slight disadvantage in certain subjects, you take more time to understand, that does not mean that you can't learn, right? Because the best part of a skill is, nobody tells you how many hours it took for you to learn that skill. They just know, do you know that skill or no, right? And the best part is, the more you practice, the more skill you get, the better it gets. Nobody asks you time, right? Now, when you look at the world's best tennis player, what did he do? He invested energies. He invested time in acquiring that particular skill. So I think it's for all of us, right, that there is a skill gap, and there is clear demarcation between what industry needs versus the skills that we have. So, today the industry does not need know-it-all people. They need people that clearly can learn it all. Right? I don't know, that's okay, but I can learn. I don't know if I answered the question, Akash.
No, I think it reaches to a point. So another question, I think, when we travel abroad and when we see, right, the healthcare abroad, right, there's a lot of emphasis on critical thinking, right, because here lives are at stake, right? How do you critically think when there's stress situation? Also, the bedside manners, right, specifically empathy towards patients, right? I think that is something that they're taught when they're going through academically through the programs. We hear that in India, it is not even there for even doctors, right? When doctors also even go through their curriculum and course. So why do you think there's so many medical colleges, there's so many nursing colleges, right now, too many paramedical colleges also, right, across the country? Why do you think that thought has never gone to the system that these things need to be inculcated so that we are also into international standards? While we are at international standards, but how do we get better? How do we get better service-wise?
Sure. So I think that's a great question, and I've been fortunate to, have worked in multiple cultures, multiple environments. I've also experienced some of the international or world-class healthcare facilities. And you said a very, very important word, that there are two things that are, very akin to the advanced healthcare practices. You used a word
Critical thinking.
Called critical thinking, and the second was empathy. And let's talk of each of these, and both very, very pertinent point. Right? When you look at empathy, right, generally as a society, we aren't very empathetic as a society. Right? We don't like to stand in lines. We find it derogatory. We cut the lines. We want to push others. So generally as a society, and it doesn't require training. Empathy is something that you perceive and you feel and you look about it. Now, interestingly, however, we've got a certain advantage over other cultures. So empathy, I look at two words, right? Really, empathy is about putting yourself and feeling the pain of the patient, right? If I describe it.
Yeah.
That's a very important skill, and that also built. Now, there are two words that link with this. One is kindness and the second is politeness, right? Now, kindness and politeness, though the words may look very, very similar, we as a country, as Indians, we are very kind, right? What do I mean by kind? We are genuine, very, very helpful to people that want, but we are not polite, right? We are rude, right? Now, we are kind, but we are rude. So even when you look at your teachers, they say, oh, he's very tough, right? They're impolite because they scream at you, but they're very kind because they really care for you, right? Now, these are two very interchangeable words. So kindness is in our, genes. As Indians, we're very kind people. We like to give food. If somebody is suffering, we want to help them, right? This has been our tradition. This has been our culture, and it's there in each one of us. However, display of empathy is something that we have not learned. We've not learned politeness, right? Even how many of you can say that I use thank you so much to your mom. I'm so grateful, mom, that you just take food. Saying you cooked, that's okay. You don't even bat an eyelid to say I don't like the food, right? You don't even feel the pain to say that she has cooked. And I'm a part of that. We've all been there, right? Or your wife tomorrow, or your husband tomorrow to say, thank you very much. Thank you, mom, you cooked for me. I'm very grateful. We don't believe in this. We think all of this is very fake. It's a mom, I can treat her anyhow. My brother, my sister. So we're kind, we genuinely care for them, right? But we're not very polite. And that's why some of these come as cultural barriers. And empathy is a term that needs to be displayed. So when there is pain, right, So for instance, I'm just looking at, the society at large. When you're going in a bus or a train and you see somebody more elderly, right, you don't want to give your seat up, right? As children, you can learn. As young adolescents, you can learn right from them. Is cultivating empathy, saying, okay, he needs it more than me. Now, the problem with our country is we're so crowded that if you give your seat up, you feel you'll never get it back, right? But the fact is that those are the training grounds to see, I think he needs it more than me. She needs it more than me. And you can be considerate, right? There's somebody much more afraid, right? And some of these need to be practiced as a society ourselves. And in society, we miss it, right? We're always trying to outdo. And somewhere, because of the population that we have, the limited opportunities, we start cutting each other, and then we are taught saying, if you don't cut each other, you don't grow. I don't believe that, this is how the future of the society should be, right? We've got to take each other along. And if everyone started being civil, right, look at how the society changes. Interestingly, I'll give you a small example, right? Till I was young, I hadn't traveled really. And then I started traveling the world and I started seeing the world. And, everybody would tell me, the speeds in the West are very, very high. And I always imagined that probably, the roads there must be really, really wide, right? And, it must be very broad roads, must be really fast lanes, etc. When I traveled there, I realized, oh my God, our roads are much broader than most countries in the world, right? Then I said, what is the real problem? The real problem is we still don't know how to drive in a very respectable manner. We still don't drive in a straight line to say if there are, there's a place for 2 cars, 3 cars go. Now imagine what is the fastest way for you to get out of this room. Suppose we are 50 of us in this room. What is the fastest way to get out of this room?
Queue up and leave.
Queue up one by one and just leave, correct? That's the fastest. You can do it in 50 seconds. Because it typically takes 1 second for one of you to get out of the room, right? Make sense? Now imagine if all 50 of you just hang here, right? What does it mean? You think you can get out in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? No. And then you'll all kill each other. That's the problem. You understand? Yeah. So that's the exact problem. And for us, these are more social values than really skills and capabilities. And I consider organizations as a culmination of many people working together. We've got, between all the hospitals of QCI, more than 15,000 people working together. Now, if everyone's just going to do this every day, imagine the culture, imagine the environment. Oh my God, everyone's just thinking, how do I get out of this class the first, right? But if you say, that's okay, it takes 50 seconds for the last person to get out of the class, and I'm going to stand in line, and I'm going to let everyone, so there's enough distance, safe distance, enough space, and then we get out. So just a small example of how typically things move and societies move. So for me, some of these skills, like particularly empathy, right, is something that's lived day to day. So you can't really learn. You've got to practice it. Right? Similarly, with kindness, with politeness, you've got to practice it. And where does it all begin? It begins at home. Yeah. Right? It begins at home. Right? It begins with your friends. Right? And people do it. People practice it. So it's your. The second, I think, very, very important skill that you said. Sorry, I deviated, but it's very, very important for me to go. The second you said was critical thinking. Now, what is critical thinking? Your critical thinking is your ability to think during a difficult situation. Correct? Right. Now, there are various responses during a difficult situation. Assuming this is a difficult situation and you've got, how do you typically react? There are various forms of reaction. Let's say you lost your mobile phone, right? And you had to make a very important call. There are forms where somebody first he immediately starts crying. I lost my mobile phone, and you know that, and you've seen that. Oh my God! Now, assuming even if you lost your mobile phone, right, will crying help? It doesn't. It makes the situation worse. But you have no other coping mechanism because that's how you are trained to think. That whenever I'm in a problem, first I cry, right? Then I get angry, correct? Then what do? I'm in depression, right? Then after all of this happens, then I find what do I do? And then I do something, right? Typically, they call this the change curve, that you've gone through all the depression and then finally you do something. A critical thinker, what does he do? He says, this is a crisis situation. What's the best solution for me? He's trained his mind to be calm and respond to the situation. In life, there are always two things. We either react or we respond. Reaction is a natural element because as animals, as human beings, we are taught to react, right? I mean, that's how a snake reacts. The snake doesn't come to bite you, right? It protects itself because it thinks that before you harm them, let them harm you. So that. Now, we are also animals. We've got the animal brain and we react. The second part, as human beings, because we evolved from the animal brain, we become human, the highest form, we have one ability is to choose the reaction that we have. Correct? And that is the ability to respond. Critical thinking is your choice to be able to respond to a given situation. To say, okay, this is a crisis situation. What's the best thing I should be doing here? Right? And that, imagine, with your training in these years, if you do it over years, you're all 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, over 10 years of practice, you could all be great at displaying the skill. Then you come to critical thinking at the workplace, is when you're dealing with real crisis, life and death in healthcare. Your ability to think smart on the ground, be there, is going to be so much more improved. So I think very, very crucial skill, right? And again, it comes from the innate ability is, I can teach you critical thinking, but you'll never be able to practice critical thinking because critical thinking is like, driving. It's like, swimming. Till you're not in the water, until you don't experience it, no amount of skill can help you navigate. You can talk through an interview, right? But the real art is being able to display it on the ground when you are in that situation. So I think you've got to inculcate it right in your day-to-day lives, some of these elements. So I think, Akash, you touched very, very two important words. And I think, I'm also in the process of learning these two skills. It's been a journey. I know many things I don't know. And I think something we've got to just work through our lives.
I think you touched a very right point that at the time of adolescence, right, it's a great time to kind of inculcate this in you, right? Because as kids that we brought up, right, we are brought up in a certain culture. I think some education institutes have cracked it. For example, in some colleges, when you do MBA, you trained for critical thinking, stress situations, you have to do projects and all of that. I think academically, there's still scope to kind of inculcate that. Obviously, it is day in, day out of practice, but how can we kind of put that in our curriculums across in various sectors is something that I personally have understood while talking to industry folks, and understood that if we can make them learn early, it is the best form of kind of getting them into the real world scenarios.
Absolutely. And I think, critical thinking is the earlier you start, the better you get at this, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you come from. Even empathy, the earlier you start, the better it is, right?
Yeah.
And empathy is also about, being fully involved in what you're doing again. Yeah. And I keep going back to the same context, is if you're fully involved in what you're doing, you kind of are more, involved, and you kind of get better outcomes in the whole process.
Great. So now all of these young folks, right, and a lot of our listeners would be allied healthcare professionals wanting to be one, right? How critical do you think allied healthcare is to the entire model hospital ecosystem, right? And also, a lot of people kind of give various numbers. What percentage of the total employee base does allied healthcare professional cover? As you said, doctors, nurses will be 30 to 40%. What other percentages do allied healthcare professionals, right? People who are into MLT, OT, maybe dialysis technicians, maybe going to physiotherapy, and all of these, right? What percentage would be that?
Yeah. So to your direct, answer, right? There'll be about 10 to 20% of the workforce that will be, allied healthcare professionals, or, 10 to 30%. So whatever you learn today in terms of, pure skills that you're learning are going to be perished. Because whether you're a lab technician, or you're, whatever kind of technician you are, right? Today, the way the labs are is going to change every 5 to 10 years, right? The regions use, technology that you use is going to be changing, right? So that's a perishable skill, because whatever you learn today is going to be perished. But you have to learn it because you have to know it, right? You've got to demonstrate it. That's one part. The second part is the non-perishable skills, right? Which is going to stay with you lifelong. Non-perishable skill is critical thinking.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you have the ability to think critically, what you're going to do is you will relate to something that you've already seen and create something much better, right? And with this evolving technologies, to your question, if I look at it, anybody who's not a doctor or a nurse, everybody is an allied health, worker, because the pie is expanding. If you look at whole technology, where does technology end and where does technology start? At one end of technology today is machine learning and AI. Right? And the other end is an operator, right? Yeah. Both use technology. The only piece is, one is a pure operator that says, I just know step 1, 2, 3. So while he's a technology, operator, he's hardly into the technology. Somewhere in the mid part, you say, okay, this probably uses, microwave or, ultrasound. And what does ultrasound do? It's ultra and sound put together. So he's able to decipher both of these. The journey of becoming an expert around technology is a series of things, right? From an operator to a, machine learning. And when you look at a machine learning expert or AI expert, what is he doing? He's using the same simple algorithms to define, what the possible future could look like, right? So some of these, Akash, are very important to understand that everything else will actually belong to allied health.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And allied health is how things are going to move, because what you pick up could just be the start point. Where you land is not the start point.
Correct. I think 5 years back, the whole robotics in healthcare in India was minimal, right? Today, robotics is becoming also a big part. So now people who are operating that is also part of allied healthcare ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Right. So that very correctly said, the pie is ever expanding.
Correct.
And for students, it's a big thing. So next question, when we talk to a lot of other healthcare leaders, right, we've always heard that India, the problem statement always comes that how do you retain the very good talent? Every hospital, every unit level per hospitals and companies face that problem, that really good people tend to go abroad. All of these things happen. But today at your level, how do you look to kind of retain the best, say, non-doctor, non-nurse profiles, right? Allied healthcare and various other profiles. How do you look to retain them, and what do hospitals do typically, right, in your experience, to retain good talent?
Yeah, no, I think that's, again, a very, very pertinent question that we see. Now, two factors, that really, when you look at the whole industry in terms of how they do it. One is, and I keep talking about it, one is, your own aspirations of a career, right? Now, once you're aligned to the aspiration of a career, then you know where to go and what direction. So whichever company you change or you stay, right, you know the direction that you do. The problem with many of us is we do job to job. Right? We're not looking at a career. Anybody who has a career view saying this is what I will do has a very different approach for somebody who's a job to job. What does a job mean? A job means I'm doing a specific set of activities and I'm being paid X. My problem is, if I'm paid X plus 5%, right, I'm willing to do that job for somebody else, right? But I'm practically doing the same job. So many of us are caught in the trap of changing a job for small salary, but I'm doing the same job. What I always tell people is, it's okay to move, right? And I'll talk about the retention. It's okay to move. But is the quality and the nature of your job becoming better than what you used to do? Now, those people who are able to answer that in certainty, yes, are moving for careers. Those people who are not, saying, I'm actually doing the same kind of job all across, the nature of the job is actually even smaller, but they're paying me more, right? Then they're moving from job to job. What do you do? What do companies like ours can do to help people? We help people aligning them with long-term aspirations and goals, right? Because when you have a larger dream, you don't tend to quit, right? Because you've got a longer dream. So that's number one, right? And when people have longer term aspirations in companies, they tend to stay around. So I think that's a very, very important factor. The second is a couple of hygienic factors. Organizations also have a lot of challenges internally. For example, if your organization provides you a great atmosphere where you express yourself, and we call it in commercial terms or in business terms, we call it engagement.
Engagement, yeah.
Yeah. If you're able to engage yourself, what does engagement mean? Right? Engagement is you're emotionally connected to the work, you feel safe, right? If you're able to provide an environment. At CARE, we're constantly working around, do managers care for the people? Do leaders care for the people? Is this a safe working environment? And what I mean by safe is not physical safe. It's also emotionally safe.
Yeah.
That when you make a mistake, do you have a fear that I'm going to be fired? Right? One of the things we're constantly talking about for CARE hospitals is that, we want to encourage you to make mistakes and learn from them, right? We will not, fire you for making a mistake, but we'll definitely fire you if you're covering up a mistake. So ethics and integrity is important, but learning is also important. So these are some of the things that the industry needs to do. So going back, if you look at it in two pathways, first is the hygienic, pieces is saying, do we take care of our people? Do we give a safe working environment? Are people learning and growing and etc.? The second is the real one is, are people connected to the longer term aspirations? Are people connected to the careers that the organization can give? And I think both are very, very important.
Yeah, yeah. So you've seen the setup here at Emversity. What we're trying to do is, how do we bridge the whole skill gap scenario, right? Today, government wants people to get employed. Private players also want to employ people. The only problem is the right skill to be given to people, right? And the idea was very specifically to get right skill to all these young people, so that when they go out in the market, they are very, very employable, right? And industry looks up to them that, okay, these students are coming, so I'll rather employ them. My next question comes to, say, players like Emversity, like us, right? How critical it is for players like us to also come across to bridge this skill gap, right? And for hospitals to be kind of bigger part of this skilling infrastructure, right? Not just as an employer, but much more than that, right? To partners like us, right? What roles do you think both parties interchangeably play?
No, I think it's a very important fundamental job that we're doing, right? Between the formalized education that we have and the formalized workforce and the sector that we have, right? The industry and formalized education. There is this piece, right, that firms like yours are doing, which is bridging the skill gap between formal education, because formal education is geared to run standard. What you're trying to do is customize that education to suit the workforce needs of various institutions like ours. Yeah. So I think for us, it's going to be a very, very important element to say, how do we partner with institutions like Emversity and yourselves? How do we have the right, talent that's already available? Yeah. And this talent is then moldable to suit the industry. And that, triumvirate between talent, partners like yourself and the recipients, right? I think this is going to be a very, very important triumvirate. I think, see, India in very early started, and it was started much, much earlier, the whole idea of ITIs. Right? And if you look at those diploma courses, they actually transformed India's manufacturing sector. Yeah. Right? Very, very pertinent. There's only so many engineers that the world can produce, but the rest they were. Now, some of these people that came in from those, went on to take very advanced degrees and became CEOs and CHROs, etc. Similarly, with people like yourselves that come into the workforce, it's all up to you of what you can create the future for yourselves. Because today, the pie is expanding. I'll give you another very, very important statistic. When you look at the industry per se, as healthcare industry, healthcare, depends on various data and sources, is close to about 400 billion. Right? Various sources also estimate between the private and the public, government, expenditures is in excess of 400 billion. Right? In almost 3 trillion economy that we have, there's a significant investment towards healthcare. Yeah. Right? This healthcare is actually larger than the total software exports in the country.
Yes.
So look at the opportunity that you have. But the only problem with this industry is it's so fragmented. Yeah. So if you look at the total, the hospital market, the organized big players is very small, and that's the advantage. Today, every large private equity in the world
is interested in healthcare because they see this opportunity. And you are so lucky to be at a time where this opportunity is going to strike and you'll be ready for the workforce.
Yeah.
So next 20 years is about you coming and occupying those places because you're right prepared for it. But will it come to you on its own? No, it will not. Somebody else may take it, right? Unless you really upskill yourself and be ready for that. I think what Emversity is doing is perhaps in exactly the right direction.
Yeah.
Saying, see, I can, model it. I can customize this talent to suit your needs.
Yeah.
Right? And rest, you got to continually, work through the skilling journey of your lives.
No, definitely. I think what happened in US in early 90s, right, the healthcare ecosystem, the way it expanded, I think that time is right now for India.
That's right.
Next 20, 30 years, everyone is very bullish about not just India, but also the healthcare sector. As you told, 15% of the 3 trillion economy, right? And we are aspiring to become 5 and then 10 trillion economy. And that 30%, 35% would be a huge, huge number. So Dr. Amit, we've talked a lot about our past, right? How things can change, could have changed, right? Let's talk about future, right? What do you think are the foreseeable changes, right, that you see coming in specifically for the kids who are looking in allied healthcare as a science, right? What are the trends that you see changing today, and how should students be ready for it?
Sure. I think great question, Akash. So if you look at the future, right, there are a few pillars that I'd say that healthcare will move around. The first is, the core healthcare delivery, right? And core healthcare delivery is going to be enabled by a few more additional layers and pillars, which will be a very, very core part of it, right? The pure healthcare delivery, if you look at it, is going to be backed by a very important pillar called healthcare economics. How will finances work? And today, if you notice that healthcare is very limited because we have financial struggles and challenges, funding of the healthcare. Now, how will this be done? By various healthcare economics that need to be coming in. It's a very important element that we must need to be clear about and understand right from the beginning is we have a huge role. Today, when you look at it, India's healthcare experience in terms of insurances, right, has become more than 10 times over the last 5 years. Today, we are sitting at more than $15 billion of healthcare insurance, right, which used to be 1/4 about 5 years ago. Estimates are that in about the next 5 years, this could be double to triple, right? So there's a large opportunity there because the entire healthcare expense needs to be funded from somewhere. And this ability to look at healthcare finance, healthcare economics is going to be very, very important. So very important for you to look at that. The second pillar that healthcare will continuously bank on is health tech. Technology in healthcare is going to evolve. How are you understanding some of these technology in healthcare? How are you taking charge of some of your own learnings to understand this right from the beginning? And you've got a big role and big opportunity for you to do this. The third is around service. The whole element of how can healthcare be delivered at your home, at the convenience of the customer is going to be a very important element. And taking healthcare to homes is going to be the next big thing because you can only have a certain number of hospitals, right? And no matter where you evolve, which part of the society you belong to, there are only a certain number of hospitals, right? How will some of these reach our homes and we start getting the services, of this, right? When you look at many of these industries, right? Look at retail industry, they've actually virtually entered home. Many of the things that we used to go out to do, we don't do that. It's come home. Banking has come home. I don't know the last time, in our times, it used to be a very, very important element that we go to the bank once, in 15 days. And my father taught me how to go to a bank and, show me. Today, I don't think so. You even understand and need to know what a passbook is or what a bank is. It's for you, it's to decipher. So some of these elements, right, about, simplifying healthcare, making it accessible, making it reachable is going to be a very, very important thing among the pillars of healthcare economics, healthcare technology, etc. So I think if you're able to look at the whole ecosystem and say, hey, here's the opportunity, here's what I can play. Across the run, you have all opportunities across.
Got it. So you talked about technology. Coming to my last question about it, I think technology is right there for us, all of us to be seen, right? We also, when we get students ready, I think virtual reality has become a big setup part of right now training, right? Because obviously you can't train on live people and all of that. So how do you think technology will help these allied healthcare professionals and healthcare professionals in general And is technology going to be an enabler or a replacement for healthcare professionals?
Yeah. So one, I don't think so. One can replace each other, like you said. There's going to be an ecosystem where they're going to be enabling each other. Technology will replace a lot of the low-end tasks that today health technicians or health tech people are actually trying to do. But what will happen is the skills will be used for a much bigger, brighter, or a more complex operation that you look at. Now, health tech will continue to expand. And if you look at technology usage, right, there are two elements that I look at technology uses. One is the pure, technology that's going to be delivered for healthcare. And second is use of technology in terms of how do you extrapolate data, right?
Yeah.
Both of these are going to be very, very important. Today, when you look at health data, the most important missing piece in the health sector is the health data. Imagine I had data about you in every sphere of what you do, how you do, what you behave. And I'm able to ascertain, right, the fact that I have so much data about you in front of, in terms of every allergy that you may have, every reaction that you have. My accuracy to treatment is going to be million folds, right? So that's a very, very, important element for us to start getting exposed to in some of these areas. Now, some of you may not be scientists as such creating new technologies, but understanding of technology, understanding of data is going to be very, very important for you. It's like a fundamental, and these are going to be enablers for any industry per se. And health is going to be a very, very important, technology is going to be a very important lever to scale, healthcare of tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I think these are all the questions that I had. I think very, very interesting and insightful discussion. I think some of our students here have few questions that they would like to ask. I think letting them ask is the best way to kind of go about it. So we'll open it up to our students.
Hi sir, my name is Muhammad Rizwan. Can you please let us know what are the most sought after skills and qualities to be applied in healthcare professionals?
So I think, you spoke about it and we spoke about it. Empathy is going to be a very, very important definition, right? The second element is also going to be a lot around patient engagement and understanding the patient life cycle, right? Today, what happens is when you look at your patient as a customer, right, you're not as effective. But if you look at the patient in his entire life cycle, you're going to give much better, solutions to him, right? So every great skill that you have, when you look at it from the life cycle of the patient, you're going to find much more solutions to it. I think Akash mentioned a very important skill that we were talking about today is critical thinking. Your ability to be think in difficult situations, your ability to think critically in not pleasant situations, right, is going to be a very, very important defining skill. So, and some of those, are actually a day-to-day life. Many of the skills that we talk about is actually a part of your day-to-day life, right? So that's perhaps going to be a very, very important skill. What could be other skills, right, as a professional? So one's a pure as a, technician, those could be some skills. But as a professional, when you start growing your careers, skills like collaboration and communication is going to be very, very important. Do you help people succeed and are you able to collaborate through the network, right? And we see this as people traverse, careers. The biggest skills of doctors, biggest skills of nurses is to be able to influence each other, collaborate and get, collective outcomes, right? Healthcare assets are going to be big and large assets, right? You've got to work across people. These are not individual roles. These are collective roles. So that's going to be a very, very important element.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Good morning, sir. My name is Anisha, and my question is, what challenges have you faced during your education and life, and how did you overcome from that?
Okay, that's a great question. So I faced a lot of challenges. Like all of us, we're all challenged. So, some of the biggest challenges were, I didn't even know why I was doing my dental surgery. For instance, nobody gave me the why, and what I could do. You're in a rut to say, okay, this is education, and then you move into the job market. I think one of the big steps that happened to me after my education is, what next? And that was a reflective why. So I didn't want to do the next thing because that was the natural next thing. I wanted to reflect on my own personality, saying, what is it that makes me? And what is it that I find pleasure doing? That particular statement, right, helped me soul search a little more. So every time when you're challenged by something, the answers mostly lie within yourself to say, is this something that, I can help myself with? And a lot of times the answers are within yourselves. When you reflect through, then you say, okay, probably I'm getting more clarity, right? And that really helps. So for me, every stage that you encounter challenges, like you say, even till today, I'm challenged. But when you reflect through, right, is, what's the direction? What is the real problem that I'm being challenged by? And then there are solutions, because there's so much knowledge in the world today. Knowledge is accessible, information is accessible, right? But the fact is, to make that relevant to your context and situation is so difficult, right? And I personally believe that most of the challenges are yours rather than coming from outside the industry. And when you make, sense of those challenges first to yourself, you start finding solutions in itself. I don't know if I answered your question, ma'am.
Hello sir, my name is Sumaya. First of all, thanks for sharing your expertise with us. A pleasure to meet you. My question is, what advice would you give to individuals aspiring to build a career in healthcare, especially in allied health sciences?
Yeah. So I think we've been speaking about that for the last 1 hour, right? Yeah. It's mostly been around what? So to be honest, Sumaya, your question is very relevant. My advice will be, just go with a very, very open mind about, learning to learn, right? That's the simplistic pieces, because I don't have a formula, because, the formulas change every 5 years. What's relevant today may not be relevant tomorrow, right? And what's relevant tomorrow may not be relevant day after tomorrow. Yeah, the world is changing faster than you think, right? Today, when you look at, how the mobile technology has changed, how the whole ecosystem of everything that you use has changed. The way you eat food, the way you deliver food, the way you talk about food, right, has changed. So even simple things like this are changing. So only thing that will remain constant is this ability to change. So your ability to constantly learn new things is going to be very, very important, right? Healthcare as an industry is the most promising at this stage. The next 10 years is going to be a lot around healthcare. So if you're excited about healthcare as an industry, right, and if you've got the right aptitude and attitude to build a career in healthcare, I think that'll be important. So some of these pieces that you got to constantly think in the world of healthcare, you could be doing a small part. But look at, if you have the whole big picture of what healthcare means for everyone and how we can be safe and healthy, right? Mental and physical health. If you can look at the whole totality and you can say that I can play a particular role in this entire piece, is going to be very, very important. For example, treating of a disease is as important as helping people understand why you don't need to contact them. So health communication is important. So there's so many parts to this healthcare ecosystem. You can pick up any part and play a very, very good role, right? Importance is that if at the end you have the ability to understand, your patient, your customers, and find a small solution to make his life easy, is going to be great. Right? Now, how do I classify the healthcare industry? I don't know. But let's say, is drinking clean water part of the healthcare industry? Right? So look at some of these, industries that are, building this, antimicrobial water and stuff like that. They're a part of this whole sanitation campaign. So where does healthcare industry stop and start? You don't know. It's so big, and you could be a part of anything that we spoke about. Whether it's delivering healthcare operations, delivering health tech, delivering health economics, right? Or the entire part of health promotion, health campaigns, health communications, any part of it. So I think the simple advice would be that find something that's of your interest, find something that's of your passion, and do the job damn well, right? That's it.
Yeah, I think.
Do you regret taking any decision in your career?
That's again a very good question, right? Do I regret taking a decision in my career? Yes, we all have a few regrets, right? We all wish, right? But the fact is, again, I'll go back, and there's a slightly philosophical part to this, because your question is slightly philosophical, is regret. Regrets is about living in the past, right? I, every day, have a practice to say, how do I go back to the present? Is here is now. Yeah, the past is gone. What do I need now to fix something that I'm not happy about? Right? Is a more important question than having regret. So I learned from my mistakes. Today I've reached a certain stage where I say, there's very little regret in my life. I'm a human being too, but there's very little regret in my life. What I have lots in my life is learnings of my past to say, how do I, learn from the past? And if something has made me unhappy in the past, to ensure I learn and not sort of look at it in the same dimension in that way, right? Could I do something new or a different look at that? So those reflections help me. So more than regret, it's reflections of the past, right? I don't know if I answered your question. And trying to be in the present, right? To say, what did I learn, and do it. Thank you.
Great. I think this is, we'll end it, sir, here.
Thank
First
you.
of all, thank you for taking time out. All of us sitting in this room and anybody who hears this will go a lot more informed about the whole healthcare ecosystem and just generally in life as much. Thanks for taking time out. It's great for young students also to kind of talk to industry leaders like you and learn a lot. When we were kids, we did not have that opportunity. I think we will be able to provide some of these kids that opportunity. Thanks for it. And it's been great. I think the whole idea of having this conversation originated from the fact that not just kids here, but I think kids overall across the country in smaller cities, tier 2, tier 3, want to listen to a lot of leaders, but they're not getting enough. So we just wanted to kind of take that out. Thanks a lot, sir, for your time. Thank you. And please, round of applause for sir. Thank you. I think.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Akash, for a wonderful session. Thank you, all of you, for being such patient listeners. And thank you to all of you that are listening to us, virtually, right? I hope my voice empowers and reaches many of you. What you're trying to do, Akash, through this media is, we were denied of these opportunities to, listen to various voices and perspectives, right? Yeah. And if one perspective can change, your life into something better, it's really helpful. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.